Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 21 Hats podcast. I'm Lauren Feldman, your host. Once again today, and probably for the foreseeable future, we're going to talk about how the businesses owned by our 21 Hats regulars are holding up during the crisis. As you know, things continue to move quickly. As we tape this episode at noon Eastern Time on Friday, March 20th, all three of the businesses owned by my guests were still operating. That changed by the end of the day Friday. In all likelihood, there'll be other changes by the time you listen to this, but I'm confident you will still find value in hearing how these three very smart owners are coping with these extraordinary circumstances. At least you'll know you're not the only one facing challenges, and you may well pick up a few useful tips. Much of our conversation focused on having to lay off employees, trying to maintain morale, managing a remote workforce, and looking for opportunities to position the businesses so that they will emerge stronger on the other side. This week's 21 Hats podcast lineup includes Karen Clark-Cole, who is CEO of Blink, a user experience research and design firm based in Seattle that is now working 100% remotely. Jay Goltz, who has several businesses in Chicago, including a picture frame shop, artist frame service, and a home furnishing store, Jason Home. Those shops, as well as Jay's digital and wholesale businesses, were still operating at the time we taped. That changed later in the day Friday when the governor of Illinois issued an order that forced Jay to shut down. And Laura Zander is co-founder and CEO of Jimmy Bean's Wool, a digital version of a neighborhood yarn shop that is based in Reno, Nevada. This is Laura's first appearance on the podcast since the crisis hit here in America. But because she owns a company that's based in China, she had some sense of what was coming. Again, I think you'll find the conversation really useful. You can also find a transcript of the conversation at 21hats.com. All right, let's get started. Let's go around the room. I'd like to get a quick update. Obviously, your health is the first concern, but we also want to hear, assuming your health is okay, how your businesses are doing. Karen, how are things with you? Last week when we spoke, it sounded like your business was holding up pretty well. Is that still the case?
Yeah, we are in a really fortunate place in that we can largely work remotely. There's out of probably 40 projects, we've just had one that's been canceled, and that's because it was in-person, in-home research that couldn't be changed to remote. A couple of other studies we've changed to be remote sessions, and then we've had a lot of studies just on hold, waiting until we can put a new date out there. So that will have a delayed impact on the revenue, but we are incredibly fortunate. All of our employees feel that way as well. So there's been obviously a lot of adjustments dealing with working from home. And for us, it's actually, I'm sure most people are feeling the personal confusion around being confined. That's sort of the harder part, I think.
Karen, you guys obviously had experience previously with working remotely. Now that it's enforced across the board, have you learned anything? Have you figured anything out that's made it easier, better?
Yeah, for sure. And we're actually publishing an article with all kinds of tips and sort of the user experience around being remote. So how to not only do it, but try to do it in a way that's better for yourself and the people that you're interacting with. So yeah, lots of fine tunings, and then lots of really creative ways that our employees are sort of figuring this out and how to have a connection.
Can you give us a couple examples? What's helping with working remotely? What's helping your employees?
Well, we set up we use Slack and we use Zoom. Slack is sort of how we communicate off of email. But we have our IT guys set up a channel it's connected with Slack, but it's a live Zoom basically, and it's called the water cooler. So anyone can log into this Zoom address at any time and just see who's there. So I thought that was brilliant. Like if you're just feeling like you want to see some of your colleagues, you just open up this ID number and you might see somebody, or you might not, just like if you're going out to get a drink. And then we're doing
what if they're naked?
Well, then they won't join. It's you have to actually join, or maybe they will. I mean,
I'm just thinking out loud here.
Yeah.
Right. Jay, do you have an HR person?
No, I just think they're at home. God knows what they're doing. I don't know if I want to see. All right.
Well, they have
point.
to decide to join. That's the idea. The other thing is we're doing like a lunch competition every day. People are posting pictures of their lunches, which are really amazing, and all of a sudden they're making me feel like I should pay more attention to my lunch. And And then we're doing things like a happy hour, doing a company happy hour this afternoon. So everyone's going to log on with their drink. And then we're going to go around the room and say what room we're in and what we're drinking. And we'll see how that goes. So,
God bless technology companies. Yeah.
Yeah, but now I'm concerned because I hear the internet's going down. So,
we're having so much trouble.
Yeah, we're worried about that because a lot of companies are asking their employees to turn off their video because they're having bandwidth issues. A lot of it's related to VPN bandwidth for sure, but it's going to be an issue, I think.
Yes, got it.
Jay, how about you? I spoke to you earlier in the week, and at that point, I think you were kind of surprised. People were still coming in to get pictures framed, and business wasn't too bad. Is that still the case?
The last week has been a year. It's kind of surreal. So Monday, people are still coming in, and they're apparently the hierarchy of man is toilet paper is one, and getting your pictures framed might be up there at number 2 because people are still coming in. Not a lot, but some people. So Monday we have a meeting. We talk about we need to take immediate action. So Tuesday I sent out an email to everyone saying we're cutting hours. And then we made a list of people that, I got 115 people. I got to make a cut. So we cut about 8 people. And my manager made the announcement, and it's turning into Lord of the Flies. Oh my God, how can you do that to so-and-so? I would have cut my own salary to save him. But the interesting part is by Wednesday, he went and talked to each manager, there's 5 of them, and talked about why the person was let go, who was a very nice guy. He's been with me for 19 years. Everybody loves him. I love him. But for the last couple of years, he hasn't been doing it. And slowly but surely, every one of them said, yeah, now that you mention it, he really didn't do this. And yeah, that was a good decision. So we went from, oh my God, how could you fire him, to good call, all within 48 hours. The customer side, there's still customers coming in. My wholesale business from around the country, we sell to other frame shops. They're ordering frames, and I feel like if they're doing business, I want to support them. So for the moment, the factory's running, the showroom's open. I'm waiting to see. I was disappointed last night. Everybody kept saying, oh, the mayor's going to go on TV. She's shutting business down. Didn't even mention it. Like, at least say, we're still reviewing whether we're going to be asking for businesses to close. We're monitoring it. That was a little
Don't
late.
you think it's coming though?
Probably. I'm not sure. I just don't know. Maybe. Just before we got on here, I just heard that New York's been shut down. It hasn't been that bad here yet. I certainly won't be surprised if that happens, but it makes you feel bad that the mayor doesn't think there's, 20,000 business owners watching every word she's saying and doesn't think maybe she should mention what's going on with it. So yeah, I'm prepared. That could happen. I'm getting to the point though. Am I better off being open or closed? Because, if I'm closed, all of a sudden the payroll stops because I can't afford to pay everybody. I'm going to let them use their vacation pay and such. It's a balancing act, but I'm watching it day to day. And this isn't like September 11th. This isn't like 08. It's worse in some ways. I think in the long run it will bounce back faster, but it's a whole new experience. That's for sure.
Jay, you also have a home furnishing store along with selling picture frames. Are people still coming to buy home furnishings?
Not a lot, but we did $10,000 yesterday. I mean, not a lot.
What?
Yeah, I got 2 or 3 people working in there. Everybody's staying away from each other. We're cleaning everything, but it's America. People want to go out, and my manager this morning said she got a call on framing from a guy in Rockford, which is about 90 miles from Chicago, and he's coming in for some framing. She says, I don't understand. I go, oh, well, I got that one figured out. He's married. There you go. See, you figured it out. She laughs. There's going to be there's people that are locked in there with their husbands and wives now for 3, 4, 5 days at some point. Not only do they want to get their framing done, but they want to drive as far away from home to get it done. So it takes a little longer. So.
Well, don't you think they're also just people who have these projects sitting around that they haven't gotten around to, and all of a sudden they have the time to do it, right?
Totally.
In their home. I'd like to stay open as long as I can without endangering people. So everybody who's over 60, except for me, is staying home. I got lots of people staying home. They can, but many people can't. So I don't know. I'm just playing it day by day. And yeah, I absolutely accept we could absolutely be shut down tomorrow. I mean, who knows?
So, Laura, we haven't spoken to you in a few weeks. You have kind of a far-flung empire these days. You've got your main operation in Nevada, but you recently bought a company in Texas. You made acquisitions in Vietnam and China even. What's going on with you?
On one side of things, we're in the same boat as Jay and Karen, and things are going actually better than we expected. So like Jay and his business, we have a lot of people who are staying home right now and they all want to knit, and they can't go. Yeah. So, our numbers online are really good. I mean, we closed our store earlier this week. We have an economic development authority that sends us recaps of everything. And they actually sent a note out 2 days ago and said, look, all non-essential businesses are asked to be closed. And the first two businesses that they listed, because we're in Nevada, number one, strip clubs, number two, brothels. So apparently those are non-essential. So
to some people, I mean,
the strip clubs, the brothels, and the casinos, that was number three. Those all need to be closed. But they said, if you are doing business online and if you are in a business like ours, that we ask that you stay open and you continue to do fulfillment, because we're in a very heavy fulfillment area, so that's the primary business around here.
What about for both of you and Jay, of the people close proximity in the warehouses?
That's a great question. And so it's optional if you want to come to work, of course. So we have everybody that's kind of in the office, they're all working from home. With the exception of one or two, but everybody has individual offices. So there's very little cross-contamination. Obviously, we're cleaning things down. We closed the retail store to the public, and so we're just doing pickups, where we, it's like a drug deal. We just leave the stuff outside for people, and there's no human contact. And then for the fulfillment side, everybody has their own computer that's marked, their own mouse, their own keyboard. So there's no touching somebody else's computer. And then it's a 20,000 square foot spot with only 4 people right now. So we've got really, really skeleton crew. You're going to pull from these 2 rows. You'll pull from these 2 rows. You'll pull from these 2 rows.
How did you figure out how to do all that?
That's kind of how we've done stuff the whole time. It's more efficient if you get to, and that's how Amazon does it too. If you get to know the rows that you pull from and the brands that you pull from. So, and we've done that in the past if we've needed to do kind of high volume and we've had low staffing. So on that side of things, we have a couple of people who have self-quarantined, a couple of older people. Some of them we've put on leave of absence. Some of them have asked to be let go so they can file for unemployment, and then they'll just come back when they are more comfortable. We're just taking it case by case basis and just we're really, really lucky, and it's taken us years and years to get here, but we have a great staff.
Lucky in what sense, Laura?
Our staff is unbelievable. There's nobody, we want to make sure that every single person is taken care of. So, and we have the flexibility right now to be able to take it on a case by case basis, and kind of cater to each person's needs, whether it's to work from home, even though they normally don't have a work from home job, we're trying to find some stuff for them to do.
I have to interrupt you and say, that's not lucky. Kudos to you for running a good business and having good people there and hiring and keeping the right people and treating them properly. Because I got to tell you, I've had some that will bring tears to your eyes. I've had people walk with me, Jay, we're going to get through this one. Okay. Tell me whatever you need me to do. I have a wonderful, wonderful, dedicated people around me that are totally with me. And then you got just the one-off. And I hate to pick on the millennials, so I really don't usually. But this one kid they said he's a delivery guy. And they said to him, listen, would you like to learn how to do UPS so you can do some more things here? And he goes, well, if I'm properly compensated for it.
Totally, 100%.
Oh, that went over really big with everyone. And it's one of my guy, this would be for 40 years. It's his future son-in-law. And he says, you know what? I really want to fire him. I mean, so I've had everything from that to most of the people. I'm telling you, it's just a beautiful thing. And it's a testimony too. When things get bad like this, it's a stress test on your business and you find out who you really are.
On that note, I just have to ask you one thing. You described the person who'd been with you for 19 years who you had to let go. And he sounds exactly like the kind of person you've been telling us on this podcast for weeks that you can't afford to keep around. Somebody who may have been really good, who people like, who's really loyal. It's exactly the kind of person you have suggested shouldn't be kept on. Why was he still there?
First of all, you met him. You know who it is. This guy was my buddy during '08. He walked up behind me after I bought my big warehouse. And I remember like yesterday, I'm standing in this 85,000 foot building I bought in the middle of the crunch because I knew I had to get my overhead down. He put his hand on my shoulder and said, "It's okay. It'll be okay." So this is a guy I was tight with. He was a 9 out of 10 employee for 17 years. And for the last 2 years, he's just been not good. And he was making 60 grand a year, and I just can't carry it. And like I said, after the other employees digested it, every single one of them had a story to tell about, oh yeah, now that you mention it, he really didn't get this done last week. It was probably getting near the end anyway. He actually walked into my manager's office a few weeks ago and says, "Are you firing me today?" And my manager said, "Well, no, not yet." I mean, he knew there was problems.
Right. Yeah.
So you know what? I will absolutely help him get another job. I gave him severance pay. It'll all be okay. But I got to tell you, when it gets down to the crunch time now, I got to worry about the other people, and I got to worry about keeping every single other person in business and eating. And I can tell you, the key to this whole thing is we are in the cockpit. We're the pilots. You got to look at the controls. You got to see where you're going. And the people that are behind you here shrieking about, "Oh, we're going to die." you turn around.
Shut the fuck up.
That's it. There you go. I knew this would be like throwing catnip in front of you, Laura. I knew you'd figure that out.
Let's go back to you, Laura. When we last saw you, I think it was when we were in Seattle, and this, none of us saw where this was going exactly, but I think you were already seeing the problems in China. Where do things stand in China for you now?
We, whether it's luck or premonition or whatever, but we got everything. Well, we knew this was going to happen. So we pushed really hard and got all of our stuff from China in early January before China got shut down. So we actually bought like a 6 to 9 month supply of everything that we needed. So we're super stocked. We're doing really well. My friend Lynn Lee and my partner over there, they're just starting to dig out. Now they're looking for work. Orders are not coming into the factories there. And, I've told you that most of the people that we work with there, they're all small family run businesses. And so they're suffering. And so now we're just starting to try to think through, okay, is there more stuff that we can start to put into production? But we're good from a supply standpoint.
Good for you.
I mean, I talk to Lynn Lee very, very frequently, every other day or so. So I've been acutely aware of the fact that her 10-year-old son has been homeschooled and been at home for 2 months so far. And that everything's been locked down.
Can you tell us about how does she feel? Does she feel like they're coming on the other side of it yet?
Oh, absolutely. Yep. So we know, if this trajectory is anything like what they've experienced in China, it's about a 2-month shutdown, is what I'm expecting. And so, I'm assuming that Huck is not going to go back to school this year, my son. But she said it's leveling off there, and there are no new cases. So the virus is dying. It's attacked all the hosts that it can attack, and it sounds like it's starting to just kind of peter out. And the weather probably has something to do with that as well. But yeah,
Chicago's keeping the schools closed till April 20th at the moment. That's what she said.
Again, just based on what I've experienced through Lynn Lee and watching what she's been watching, she just sent us masks. She's sending us toilet paper now.
Wow.
So she's shipping me everything that we need, so just sidelight. I've wanted to do a Jimmy Bean's toilet paper line for a really long time.
That's right. We saw it. Yeah.
Yes. I told you I wanted to do a shit along instead of a knit along where, you've got toilet paper that has knitting instructions on it. And my team has got their tails between their legs right now because they're just like, we should have listened to you. Then we would have had tons of toilet paper. I'm like, I told you guys, I knew it. We were going to need knitting toilet paper.
You are a visionary, really. I mean, you go right up there with Steve Jobs.
Thank you.
Really. Whoa.
So are you working on it now?
Nah, it's too late now. We missed the boat. Yeah.
Meanwhile, I had an interesting thing. My cleaning lady comes today. She's been my cleaning lady for 25 years, speaks broken English. She says to me, "How are you?" I said, "I'm okay." And she looks at me and just smiles and she goes, "I'm okay this time." And I knew exactly what she was talking about. It means that in '08, she had bought a condo. She lost it. She was freaked out where she was going to live. And she came to me and she said, it's not like I'm close friend. I see her once a week for 2 minutes when I'm walking out the door. She said, "Jay, can you loan me $2,000? I'm really in a bad." And I said, "Absolutely." And I gave her the money and she cried. I mean, she was so thankful. And I understood what she meant is the last nightmare was a nightmare. This time she's okay.
Yeah.
And I felt good that she's still got jobs and things are okay.
Yeah. There's a parallel here. Dana and I were talking about this on the phone yesterday, in terms of how apparently like entrepreneurs do well in chaos, and because I was like, I'm not scared and I know I should be. And that actually scares me, the fact that I'm not freaking out.
You're freaking out because you're not freaking out?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I know I should be a lot more scared, but
no, you
like
shouldn't
we've got this.
You are a
like,
superhero.
We've totally got this.
And this just brings it out these times. And there are people who haven't been in business that long that have never been through one of these crises, and they don't get it. I talked to a PR person yesterday. She said at 9 o'clock in the morning on Monday, she had 16 clients, and by noon she had 2, and she spent the whole day crying. And I said, dig in and find some more business. In the part that's a little bothersome to me is she lives in a beautiful house in the suburbs with her lawyer husband. And part of me wants to say, again, it's like, really, like, there are people who are worried about whether they're going to have dinner on the table tonight. And it's a little hard for me to feel sorry for someone who's living really nice and like, they'll be okay for a few months. Really, it'll be just fine. There are people who truly are in almost life and death situations with taking care of themselves. And now's not the time. There's no pity parties in entrepreneurship. Sorry.
Laura, you told us about your situation in China. What's going on in Texas?
Well, so Texas is a different story. As you know, what I inherited or adopted or purchased, whatever word you want to use.
This was a big supplier of yours that you bought a few months ago.
Yes, a big supplier of ours. It's a manufacturer. So we hand dye yarn down there, and their sales have been going down for about 4 years, very steadily, 5 years. And the business had just not been shepherded, I suppose. So, we've been dealing with all kinds of crazy stuff over there just in general. So now what we're dealing with, and long story short, we missed, in the knitting industry, as I'm sure you all know, it's very seasonal. So, the busiest months are really January, February, March. That's the knitting season.
Could be different this year.
Yeah, there's a light knitting season in October, November, December, but all of our shops, all of the wholesale accounts, they do their buying in September and October. And the previous owners had cut off all of the supply chain to the shops in September and said, we can't supply you anymore. So we didn't have any order. When we came into the business, we didn't have very many orders. And all of these shops ended up going elsewhere and finding other products to fill their shelves, which they should have. It absolutely makes sense. So, we're getting hit with low sales as a result of that. And then we throw this pandemic in, and most of our shops are having to close. So they're canceling their orders.
Most of your shops, meaning people who buy yarn from you, your clients.
Yeah, they have a retail shop. So our wholesale customers are pausing their orders. And so we have, a bunch of people, and we don't have enough work for everybody. So this morning we had to do a layoff, of about, 25% of the staff and 25% of the production crew. So
layoff or fire them? I mean, are you bringing them back, or do you just get rid of the people that were just barely holding on to begin with?
Jay,
I'm just asking. All right, we'll hold that.
We did a permanent layoff.
Okay.
We had to burn the forest down. So we burned the forest down, and then the sturdy trees are still there. And then we are hoping, as we grow the business again, to bring in some new talent as it grows. How's that for cryptic?
That's how the sausage is made. It's just that is reality. Sorry,
It is.
that the people who are the best employees are the ones that are held on, and it's sorry, but it's just that's the way it goes. And
so we kept the 8s, the 9s, and the 10s, and we felt like it was the right thing to do for a couple reasons. One, this right sizes the business to what we have right now, so that everybody can work full time. And gets a full-time paycheck. 2, we wanted to kind of get out in front of the unemployment line. So before things are too bad and before, because I see in the next month or two, I'm assuming things are going to get a little worse in terms of layoffs and unemployment. So I wanted these people to be able to go out and get ahead of the curve. Get unemployment as quickly as they possibly can and or find something else, because there are some people hiring right now.
It's not fun. It gives you a knot in the stomach. It's horrible, but welcome to running a business. It's not always pretty, and that's what our job is. And those that think that they can run it like, a non-for-profit.
I said that at Jimmy Bean's, we're in a great spot or a lucky spot or whatever, but it took 17 years of running it like a nonprofit and not making these hard decisions to get to the point. I had to make these hard decisions over and over and over to get comfortable with them. And, after avoiding them for the first few years. So now we're in a better spot. And so now it's a little bit easier. Like your housekeeper said, this time it's not as bad, because I know that I can walk out. I'm going to come out of this okay. And I know that we're doing intellectually, I know we're doing the right thing for the other people, for all the 8s, 9s, and 10s that really give their heart and soul and are on the bus. This is what needs to happen. And I want to take care of the people that really, really give it their all.
I'm curious, are you still doing much marketing right now to sell online?
Yeah, we're about to really pump it up. In fact, everybody that's at Jimmy Bean's that is working from home, like Jay said, it's amazing to see what they're doing. They're working 12, 14 hours a day right now, just pushing and pushing and pushing.
Karen, Jay, are you guys marketing right now?
Yeah, absolutely. We need to stay in business and keep going as best we can. And
any change from what you normally do, Karen? Doing more, doing less, different?
No, probably the same. But we are. It's not marketing, but something that we're promoting is trying to help our clients figure out the remote working thing, because we've been doing it for a long time. We've got great tools, we've got great process, we've got great methods, and so we're really trying to help our clients so that they can continue to work and that we can work with them, just sort of offer ways to help them figure all this out. So that's something that we are sort of promoting, but so that our clients can keep going. And, when we're leading the way with a big meeting, we'll get it all set up. We'll tell them, here's how we're going to do it. Here's how it's going to go. And they've been really appreciative. It's been great.
Jay, I think I heard you sigh after I asked the marketing question.
No, I have absolutely shut off. If this was an airplane cockpit, I'm looking at the control, cash drain. That's all I'm focusing on right now. So I cut off all marketing efforts at the moment. I did not. I have an outsourced marketing woman I've been using for a few years. I haven't cut her off. I know she's on all of her other clients are hotels. So she's literally been completely shut down. They've all suspended paying her. So I'm her only source of revenue, and she's been very good for me, and I like her, and I'm not cutting her off. I'm going to keep her on. But as far as everything else, I'm not going to make Google any richer this week, because I cut that stuff off, the pay-per-click, and I'm watching cash. I can shut it off for a month. It'll be fine. And then I got to tell you, this sounds odd, but they're still lending money. I've got a building that has no mortgage on it, and I'm getting a mortgage on the building, and I think I'm going to pull this off. And if I pull this off, I'm good to go. So that's all I'm spending my time on now. I'm working on all cash flow items, and I suspended the marketing until, until I have the cash back.
I know that you're not as much retail as we are, but to me, I feel like I'm in a race car right now, and I need to switch gears, and I'm about to press on the gas because there's this lull, and I can feel it. So from a cash standpoint, we've been having a meeting for the last 2 or 3 days about, okay, this, we have X number of dollars in inventory. Can we pull, a couple $100,000 out of inventory in case we end up being cash flow negative for the next 2 months? And I'm talking about my Reno, the Nevada business, the e-commerce and the retail store. So we have money, it's in inventory. Can we pull that money out of inventory? And then we need to put our foot on the gas in terms of marketing. And a lot of our marketing is actually salaried marketing. It's more creative marketing and less just spending. But the last thing in the world I want to do is cut our advertising and marketing budget right now. In fact, I think that this is the time to press on the gas. And unfortunately, and this is going to sound really cold-hearted, but the opportunities that are about to open up, like, holy shit, it's unreal.
No, it's not.
What are you referring to, Laura?
She's going to put some people out of business. That's what she's talking about.
No. Oh, yeah. Hey, easy. Yeah. No. I'm thinking about
our support. No.
Let her answer, Jay.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm getting ahead of this one. Capitalism 101.
If there was no shutdown, I'd be on a flight right now to kick your ass.
Yeah.
The opportunities in terms of our suppliers, are going to have a lot of excess inventory because nobody's buying. So there are going to be opportunities to buy things at a great price and get some extra margin that could last us for a little while. And yes, there are going to be opportunities in that the bottom 10% of our competition, if you will, are going to drop out, whether it's because they're not running a great business or if it's just too stressful, is part of what I think. So I think that, we're just going to outgrid them.
So you just said in a nice way, yeah, it's capitalism. And those of us that run good companies and have wonderful employees and give great service, we're going to get a little payback for the years and years and years we've been investing in that. And the companies that have people that work for them that don't like them, that they don't want a good business, it's going to cull the herd out a little bit.
It is. It's going to cull the herd.
Come on, guys. You're being totally insensitive. There's a whole lot of companies that just can't keep people staffed right now. The restaurants,
for sure.
I mean, it goes on and on and on. It's awful, the amount of people that are great who don't have jobs.
I'm not talking about the restaurant. I'm talking about knitting and picture framing. The restaurant thing is horrendous. Laura, I also have millions of dollars worth of inventory, but you got to sell it to get cash out of it. So I don't have any advertising that I do that is that effective at all that I can know that if I spend X dollars, it's gonna make a difference enough to justify.
Got it. And we do. I mean, we've got, kind of the digital advertising and the digital marketing. I feel like we do a relatively good job. And so if we can amp that up, we can pull some cash out of the inventory.
I have another question. Laura and Jay, you're both continuing operations at a time when, a lot of the country is starting to go into complete lockdown. We talked a little bit about spacing in warehouses and being careful and all that, but one thing you've never really had to think about before that maybe you do now is just what your employees do when they're not at work. And I'm curious if you've given any thought to, is it possible you have anybody who's being irresponsible? I mean, we've all seen these pictures of kids who are, on the beaches in Florida or whatever. Are you guys paying attention to that, thinking about that?
We had a management meeting on Monday talking about how we can control that. And I said, so somebody said, well, we have no right to tell anybody what to do on their personal time. I said, you know what? That might have been true a month ago, but I got to tell you, that one of your employees is out at the bars at the big thing in Chicago was the St. Patrick's Day. The mayor was pissed. Everybody was pissed. The bars were loaded, St. Patrick's Day. And I make the argument, I think I have a right to do whatever I want. They're endangering the rest of my employees. So they have a right to go out there. That doesn't mean I have to employ them, though. If someone goes out to a bar and is completely irresponsible and then comes to work the next day and might infect my employees, I think I have every right to say, you know what, go home, maybe permanently. So this has gone beyond business. We're getting into, like I said, Lord of the Flies. We're getting into life and death issues here. I don't need to expose the rest of my employees to that.
Laura, how are you thinking about it?
Similar, but different. We're taking, so in Nevada, well, in both of them, we're talking about 24-hour shifts. I mean, we're just working on minimizing and making sure that there's incredible distance between each person. So even today is paycheck day. So we had the whole staff off this week. So that down in Texas. So for paycheck day, we had everybody come down and they scheduled a time so that no two people are in there getting their paycheck at the same time. And the woman who's giving the paychecks out, she's got, we've got gloves on, it's across the desk, it's, da-da-da. So we're trying to be very, very deliberate. Even in our factory, it's going to be skeleton crew going forward where there's only one person per kitchen. There's no cross-contamination. They have their own bathroom. So because I'm very, very aware that, we have a group of people that we don't know what they're doing at home. And we don't know if they're carrying things or crossing things. So all we can do is try to maintain a very, very lean skeleton crew that, again, reduces or eliminates contact with other people.
This is where it gets tricky, though. So the non-business owner or the government official can sit on their thrones and look at us and say, you are irresponsible. No one needs knitting and no one needs picture framing, and you people are irresponsible. Everybody should be hunkered down. And that's great when you don't own the business and you've got your paycheck from the government every month, or you work for a university or wherever little ivory tower they're in. But when you have to make payroll every week and give people money, there's a little balancing of like, shutting down is a pretty drastic thing and is going to affect people. And like, we're doing everything possible to keep people away from each other and do the same things. But it's just not black and white that, everybody should just shut down and sit home for a couple of months. I mean, there'd be lots of businesses.
There is another side to that, Jay.
But isn't Amazon, Amazon's hiring 100,000 people. So what about all those people?
Right.
And they're not doing the social distancing that we're doing in both of our facilities. I mean, if you walked into our spot right now, it's a ghost town. Like you wouldn't even know. They're so separated. It's like, it's like a hospital. It's very clinical. So people are driving to work. They've got their one little area that they're doing stuff in.
I'd be surprised if you weren't doing some sort of social distancing. I mean, they're taking that really seriously. They were one of the first companies that we work with to have everyone start working from home and to cancel everything.
Yeah, but I mean, in a fulfillment center, have you been in one of their warehouses?
No, but I'm guessing they have to be different now.
Well, yeah, but how are you gonna flip that overnight? I mean, even if they knew 2 months ago. So yes, I'm sure that they're doing everything that they can do, but the sheer volume and the sheer number of people that they have, I really doubt that they're doing a better job than we are, just from a volume standpoint. I mean, we're talking about 2 people, I've got 2 people or 4 people in 20,000 square feet. Like that's more space than people have at their house.
The other piece of this conversation is when you look at what's happened in Italy, what happened in China. I mean, you talked about how your subsidiary in China is starting to come out on the other side. Well, that happened because they took drastic measures to shut everything down. And I would like to think that there are authorities here who are looking at this and assessing the risks, especially considering that we got a late start and we didn't have the testing ready when we should have. So at some point, when hospitals start to fill up, or preferably before that happens, somebody should probably be looking at the question, do we do it across the board? And maybe even Amazon should have to shut down.
I think the part
Sure.
you missed is her suppliers coming out. There's another 4 that are not coming out, that will never come out. So it's just not black and white of, in theory, it sounds great. Everyone should shut down, lock themselves in their house, and not go outside.
That great, Jay.
No, but that's a good theory. But for people who are trying to keep their businesses alive and don't have the luxury
if we're talking about a pandemic that is filling up hospitals across the country, then you need the government to step in. And yes, there absolutely should be protection for businesses like yours. And there should be something done to help all kinds of businesses, including those restaurants we were talking about, so that they can come out on the other side. But we also have to do what we can do to keep those hospitals from filling up.
Clearly.
But I am curious what you guys think the government should be doing? There's a lot of talk right now about bailouts. There's talk about injecting cash into the economy through various systems. There's talk about, the first thing that were talked about were bailing out the airlines, bailing out the cruise industry, both of which kind of amazed me. I'm curious what you guys think.
People need cash to pay rent and buy groceries.
Yeah, I don't really understand. I mean, yeah, I'm with Karen 100%.
And we're not supposed to be the ones to front the cash.
Jay, how would you feel if the government bails out the cruise industry?
Let's talk about the airline industry, that when they bailed them out, they've made billions of dollars. They did stock buybacks, and the airline industry is in what made billions and billions of dollars. And now all of a sudden, no, they're not on the top of my list for, those poor CEOs that made $800 million last year. We need to help them out.
Our landlords at both of our locations I just got an email, just cut our rent by half for the next couple months. So I've been talking. Yeah. So I've been talking with our employees as well about, okay, reach out to Waste Management, reach out to these guys, guys, talk to your landlord. There are either publicly funded companies, or there are people who have done really well and are willing to, to cut expenses if they can. So if we can kind of, ideologically, yes, there's the government side of it, but then there's also the responsible side of the people who have done well and who aren't going to be quite as affected, and as Jay has said, from a business owner standpoint, I feel like my job is even, to lose money over the next couple months to make sure that our employees get paid and that, they still have a full-time job. But maybe the responsibility of some of the landlords is to cut rent, I've heard that they were going to delay evictions and delay all of this kind of stuff.
Laura, that's a great point, that a lot of employees may not realize that they have, more room to maneuver there. Karen, I'm curious, is that something you're addressing with your employees, reaching out to them to encourage them to think about things that they can do?
Not specifically around rent, but that's a good idea. But I just sent a big, long email out yesterday talking about health and well-being and making sure that people are taking care of themselves and their mental health when it can be really challenging. I mean, for some people, you think about working from home all of a sudden, your kids are at home all of a sudden, everybody's here. And, for some people, that might be good, but for others it might be overstimulation because they've all of a sudden there's kids all around them and they're trying to work and still got to get your job done. And then for other people, the social isolation is really, really difficult. And so, and then it goes on and on and on. And so we've been really sort of guiding and helping people. And my head of HR is an expert in this kind of sort of brain development and how people react differently to different stresses and what they do under pressure. So we're trying to help them on that side, but we haven't talked about, and partly for us, it's less of a concern about paying rent because our employees are all getting paid.
Right.
So it's less of a concern there.
Here's a small thing people can do. Some people pay their charge bill every single month off with automatic pay. Now's the time to maybe go on there. I just did it myself. Flick it off. Like maybe don't pay your charge bill this month. Just pay the minimum and just leave yourself a little wiggle room there so that you got some cash left just in case, things don't come back fast enough. You get laid off, whatever.
That's a great point. And that's so, where could the government step in? Can we defer interest charges for a little while? Can you call your credit card company and say, look, it's a little tough. Can you defer my interest or can you wipe my interest out? Can you give me 90 days terms basically on my credit card?
Here's a tip. This is real life. I just did it yesterday. I have a Bank of America credit card. I barely use it. It's got a very high limit on it. If I take a cash advance, check this out. They will give you, for a 3% transaction fee, you get money like tens of thousands of dollars, 3% transaction fee, and you don't have to pay it back until September of 21, which means that the effective interest rate, if you count the fee as an interest rate, is like 2.25%. So I could cover my living expenses by just using the one credit card, and I stop pulling salary out of the company and gives me a little more breathing room. Like I said, I'm spending all of my time now looking at where can I save some cash. So there's some money, poof, 2.25% interest.
That's a good tip. We need to wrap this up. I think we hit on some really useful information here. Going back to the beginning, one of the things I'd want to highlight is what you said, Karen, about the Zoom channel that you can turn on, that it's just there if employees want to just stop by and see who's there and connect with someone. Anything else come to mind? Any takeaways for each of you from this conversation?
You know what I'm going to do when I hang up here? I'm going to call my guy that runs the wholesale part and tell him to give me 20 names of frame store owners who are still ordering. And I'm just going to call them. I've never talked to them and just say, hey, how you doing? Thanks for the order. I just want you to know we're going to be here, and give them a little encouragement, because I understand that these frame store owners might in fact be one person businesses or two people businesses. And I think they'd appreciate getting a phone call. So that's what I'm going to do.
It's a nice idea, Jay.
I got that from Laura a little bit, talking about the knitting stores. I thought about, they're in a similar situation.
Well, Jay, one thing that we're going to do, so over the years, we'll dye it in our Texas facility where we do have the retail stores as customers. We would dye a color, create a color, and then we would donate a percentage back to, a fund for malaria, or when Australia had the fires, we would donate 25%. So what we've decided to do is we're going to donate to our customers instead of donating to something else. So we've created a special set of products. We're giving them a big discount on it. We're going to give them terms if they need it. Basically, we're going to send you a bunch of yarn, and then if you can we'll help you sell it online. We're going to try to raise money for our shops. Doing stuff like that, and we want to send care packages out to the shops that are struggling and just let them know that we're thinking about them.
Great.
That's a great note to end on. That's going to have to do it. We are out of time.
Wait, give me 5 seconds.
Go ahead,
To all
Jay.
the business owners out there, your employees are looking to you for strength, and you cannot afford the luxury of going out there looking like your dog just died. You need to go out there and tell people, we're okay, we're forging on here, because
even if it's not true.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you don't know what's true and you don't know what's true. To go out there, well, we might be there's just no point in saying, I don't know if we're going to make it or not. There just is no point in saying that. I'm not saying lie to anybody. Say, look, we're digging in here. We're going to get through that. Yeah, it's called being a fearless leader. Sorry, there's no room for they don't need any more grief. They need to at least look at their boss and feel like someone's on the helm, and that's what they need. That's what the boss does. Am I wrong, Laura? Am I wrong? Karen, am I wrong?
I don't know.
I think it's okay to be human, and but yeah, we've got to hold up for sure.
Yeah, I'm not saying look oblivious. I'm saying just give them some hope. We need to keep.
Yeah,
that's the point. Hope versus despair.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is we are going to be okay, and it is going to be great. So
see what I'm talking about? I would just give you I wouldn't give you a hug. I would give you a big virtual hug. If you're
no
over
more
here,
hugs.
I would give you a high five from across the room. There you go.
Well, I think it's interesting, right? We are going to get through it, and how is it going to be different on the other side? That's what I'm really fascinated with, particularly as everyone gets comfortable or not comfortable working remotely. And how do we, is it all of a sudden one day we start going back to restaurants, or is it going to be gradual for the brave?
I can't wait till we can start talking about what it's like on the other side. But I have a feeling that's a little ways away for now.
Let's not assume the worst. That's the point.
I want to thank all of you, Karen Clark-Cole, Jay Goltz, and Laura Zander. We will be doing this again and again. We will follow you guys as we all try to do our best to get through this in one piece. Thank you, and be careful out there, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening, everybody. This episode was produced by Jess Thuberon, founder of Blank Word Productions. Remember, we started the 21 Hats podcast to help business owners feel a little less isolated, to let them know they aren't the only ones fighting these battles. If you got something out of this conversation, please help us reach more people. Tell a friend, subscribe and review us wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on Twitter at 21_hats. And let me know if you have a question or a comment or a topic you'd like us to cover. My email address is lfeldman@21hats.com. See you next time